There's more to you than you think. And you know that too, because you upbraid yourself for not manifesting it. And you say to people, well, I ask people, for example, well, who do you admire? Because that instinct for admiration is part of the instinct for imitation. It's like, who do you admire? You admire people who are completely irresponsible. You admire people who can't take care of themselves. They can't even take care of themselves. Here's the most admirable person. Completely useless to themselves, maybe even counterproductive. Just a bloody catastrophe for their family, and like, what would you call a social danger. Like, no one admires that. No one admires that. It's like you start minimally. Can you take care of yourself? At least that'd be the first thing. And then is there enough to you so that maybe someone else could rely on you now and then? And maybe a number of people, maybe your family. You could be the glue that holds them together and mends them. And then maybe there could be more to you than that. Maybe you could be someone for your community, and God only knows how far you could go with that. Those are the people you admire. It's like, well, try that out. See what happens. And start locally. Carl Jung said, this is one of my favorite Carl Jung quotes, he said, modern man does not see God because he will not look low enough. I really like that. And so, I've been telling the people that I talk to the same thing. It's like, you have a certain amount of potential within your grasp. You may find what you have contemptible because you're not in a position of power. This modicum of possibility that's been granted to you is beneath you. And so you do nothing with it. And so you get nothing from it. You take that seriously. You do the small things you can, the humble things that you can to put yourself together in those tiny, embarrassing ways that are real. And if you do that enough, you'll fortify yourself, and that will work. And one of the things that's been unbelievably heartening to me, it's ridiculous, really. Like, normally now, if I go out during the day, if I go to any city, I've been to like 150 cities in the last year, and if I'm walking around on the street or in an airport, someone will come up to me about every 10 minutes or so, and they'll say the same thing. They always say the same thing. They first of all apologize for bothering me, and they're very polite. So all my interactions with people, you'd never guess this from like my reputation in the press, but all my interactions with people in public are unbelievably positive. And the people will come up and say, I was in this small domain of hell a year ago or 6 months ago, whatever it is, addiction, alcoholism, I wasn't getting along with my family. I'd been living with my girlfriend for 5 years and we were stuck. I didn't have any direction for my career. I was nihilistic, I was whatever. All the different ways that people can fall into a pit and be miserable. He said, I read your books or I watched your lectures and I decided I was going to try to put my family together. Or I was going to make a vision and pursue it. Or I was going to try telling the truth. I was just going to try one of these things. And things are way better, way better. One of the things I've been suggesting to my audiences, it's one of the rules in my book, is that you should tell the truth, or at least you shouldn't lie. It's like, you can't tell the truth because what the hell do you know? But you cannot lie. Like each of us knows when we're about to utter something that isn't true. Now, sometimes maybe you're confused about it because you're ignorant and you're biased, and so you say something and it might be true and it might not be, but you're not clear about it. But sometimes it's pretty damn clear that you say something or you do something that you know perfectly well not to be true, and you do it anyways. And the proposition that Genesis puts forward is, if you act in truth, then the order you produce is good, regardless of how it appears. It's an axiomatic statement of it's an axiomatic ethical proposition that the job of whatever extracts order from chaos is properly done if it's done in truth. And that's worth thinking about, because it might be true. And then the question is like, well, do you believe it's true? That's a good question. It's not a religious question even, it's a practical question as far as I'm concerned. And my sense is that people just believe that this is true, deeply. And the way you can tell that is not by what they say, but by what they do. And so, for example, one of the things that you might observe is that, you know, if you love someone, your children, let's say, you don't tell them that the best way to get through the world is to lie about everything all the time. You don't sit them down and say, look, this is a corrupt enterprise, and altogether, and you can't trust anyone because they're always lying about everything. And your job is to become the best liar you possibly can become, because that's the way to get to where you need to get to and to set the world straight. No one ever does that. And so, if they don't do that, which would be belief in the lie, then they must assume something that's approximately opposite. And I would say that most people are not pleased when they catch their children in a lie. And so then you have to ask, well, why is that? It has to be because people believe that the truth is the proper way to proceed. And it isn't obvious why they believe that, but it's obvious that they act as if they do believe that. It's an unbelievably positive thing to see, and it's a real thing. You know, it's like, it's so interesting to watch the fact that all people have to do is put some of these things into practice, and all of a sudden that little modicum of potential that they had, because they got humble enough to deal with it properly, starts to expand and expand. And like, I believe, and I do believe this, and I think this is part of the Christian message fundamentally, is that there's actually no limit to that expansion. You know, because in some sense, like, we are this weird combination of finite and infinite. Like, we're related to the infinite in some manner, obviously, because the infinite exists, and here we are, and so we're related to it in some manner, and I don't know what manner that is, but I don't know what the limits are. It's like if you were the best person you could be, you know, truly, if you decided to live by truth and to aim at the good, and you really did that, you put your whole heart and soul into it, like that's what you were staking your life on, because you're staking your life on something. Who the hell could you be? And no one knows, you know. You know perfectly well you could be far more than you are. And you don't know what the upper limit of that is. And we certainly don't know what the upper limit would be if there were lots of people doing that. God only knows what problems we could solve. You know, there's lots of suffering and misery in the world. Plenty. And it's no wonder that people get bitter. But God, as you pointed out before, you know, we've got no shortage of ingenuity and possibility. And if we were serious about making things less wretched than they are, who knows what miracles we could pull off.